By the 1890s, Sigmund Freud was successful enough with his peculiar talking treatment to open new offices in a fashionable district of Vienna. The address was Bergasse 19, and Freud would live and work here for 47 years. On October 23, 1896, Sigmund Freud's father, Jacob, died. Overcome with painful and confusing feelings, Freud, 40 years old, decided to analyze himself. Freud's self-analysis, his voyage into his own unconscious, is a legendary, almost mythical moment in the history of psychiatry.
What Freud did was what no other human being had ever accomplished. The self-analysis was a monumental achievement, and Freud was the first person to be able to lift his own defenses, overcome his own resistance, and interpret his own unconscious.
Freud had recently discovered what he called the royal road to the unconscious, dreams, and he had developed an odd but intriguing new method for exploring that road, free association, paying attention to anything that came to mind without any censorship. Every night after his patients, Freud put himself on the couch and free associated around his dreams. One dream produced a vivid and suggestive image, Freud dissecting himself from the hips down. Freud certainly had plenty of neuroses to dissect. Among other things, he had a travel phobia. He longed to visit Rome and once went within 50 miles of the city, then turned around and went home. He also had a tendency to faint in the presence of talented male friends, and he had a severe addiction to cigars.
Some sad secrets of life are being traced back to their first roots. I am now experiencing myself all the things that as a third party I have witnessed in my patients. Days when I slink about depressed because I have understood nothing of the day's dreams, fantasies or moods, and other days when a flash of lightning brings coherence.
At first, for about a year, the process of self-analysis made his symptoms worse because he was really looking into what he called the dung heap, which meant all of the disgraceful or shameful or anxiety-producing feelings that were swept into the unconscious.
Fantasies of incest, fantasies of murder, unacceptable forms of rivalry, repressed hatreds.
The fact that as a child he could wish for the death of a brother, the fact that he could, as a child, lust for his mother. To really face the fact that a child had sexual feelings and could have them for a parent, that was so radical in his time.
Lust for the mother, hatred of the father. As an infant, incredible, impossible feelings to uncover in oneself, especially in 1896. But Freud looked at these memories like a scientist looking at research, without moral judgment, and he made a breathtaking leap. What if all children universally experienced passionate feelings of love and hate toward their parents? What if those feelings were built into the very process of human development? The Oedipus complex is the name Freud eventually bestowed on this hot bundle of infantile passion. The name is taken from the play by Sophocles, Oedipus Rex, in which Oedipus, king of Thebes, unknowingly kills his father and marries his mother.
His destiny moves us because it might have been ours. It is the fate of all of us, perhaps to direct our first sexual impulse towards our mother, and our first hatred and murderous wish against our father. Our dreams convince us that that is so. Sigmund Freud.
Freud's ideas, not surprisingly, were greeted with derision.
His reputation was that he was a libertine, that he wrote pornographic materials, that he was a dirty, filthy, disgusting person.
Well, there was, of course, a lot of jealousy and resentment against his theories. If you tell people that your son wants to marry his mother, this is resented by many fathers.
Freud's self-analysis lasted 4 years. He did not manage to cure himself of every neurosis, but he did overcome his travel phobia. In 1901, he made the first of many trips to Rome. More importantly, Freud, drawing largely from his own memories and dreams, wrote what he regarded as his most important work, The Interpretation of Dreams. In effect, a record of his self-analysis. The book was published in 1899, but Freud had the publisher mark the date as 1900. He wanted it to usher in the 20th century. No one noticed. The Dream Book, containing ideas that would shape the modern era, sold just 300 copies in 6 years. By 1900, Sigmund Freud had pieced together a handful of dazzling insights into what he viewed as nothing less than a new science, the science of psychoanalysis. Freud's primary aim was now to establish psychoanalysis in the world, to develop it into an international movement. His biggest fear was that anti-Semitism would get in the way, that analysis would be dismissed as a Jewish science. Certainly, only Jews showed any interest in Freud at the turn of the century. By 1902, he had attracted a small circle of followers, all of them Jewish, and they began to meet every Wednesday in Freud's waiting room, forming what became known as the Wednesday Society. The subject of their first gathering was one dear to Freud, the significance of smoking cigars. Freud himself was now smoking between 20 and 25 a day. Another interesting topic might well have been doodles, specifically Freud's doodles, unconscious images and signs like these, which he liked to scratch out during society meetings. Freud continued to write during these years, and he had surprising popular success with a book that illustrated the unconscious with examples from everyday life, and that introduced his most famous idea, the Freudian slip.
Dreams, slips, which now we all think of as Freudian slips, and jokes. I mean, is this the stuff of which serious science was to be made? He turned it into that, but that was a remarkable performance.
I was fully aware of grandfather's ideas. I mean, Freudian slips, for instance. If you meet somebody and say goodbye, you rather not meet him.
Someone Freud was eager to meet was Carl Jung, a brilliant Swiss psychiatrist who had taken up Freud's ideas and whom Freud came to regard as his most gifted follower. What made Jung really special, however, had nothing to do with his ideas.
The only known Jew in grandfather's circle was Jung, and that's the reason why grandfather applauded him so much at the beginning. At long last, we are recognized by the others as well.
A turning point in recognition by the others came in 1909, when Freud was invited to America to give a series of lectures at Clark University and to receive an honorary degree.
It seemed like the realization of some incredible daydream. Psychoanalysis was no longer the product of delusion. It had become a valuable part of reality. Sigmund Freud.
Still, the future of psychoanalysis was anything but secure. Freud's most famous protégés, including Jung, began to differ with him on key points. Freud, the father figure of the movement, would not tolerate this kind of rebellion.
He demanded absolute loyalty, and if that wasn't forthcoming, well, then he cut his ties.
Freud's relationship with Jung, whom he called his beloved son, became especially tense. 3 times Freud fainted in Jung's presence, responding to what he sensed was a murderous wish from Jung. The two broke bitterly in 1914 and never spoke again. To ward off future betrayals, Freud formed a secret committee of loyal adherents. They would fight for and protect Freud's core ideas, and they swore allegiance to Freud by wearing rings that he made from a Grecian gem.